Jay. I figured if you're going to do the head turn, then I'm going to do the head turn too, and then we'll do the head turn together, and we're just turning
Yeah,
heads. That's what you, because
do
you're
it
always
in-
turning heads. We can
yeah.
do turning. It's like a night at the Roxbury. We can just do the turning. Um, anyway, hi, and welcome to this week's episode. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome and thank you. For those of you who come back, really, thank you. Just very quickly, we do this little thingy to kind of share a little bit about how we work together as partners in life and in business and in shared everything, and how that has its ups and downs and lefts and rights and positives and negatives, and how we navigate all that and how we learn from each other and from the universe. And really it's come about, or we talked about it for a while, people were telling us to do it for a while, and it really, the thing that got us to say, let's just do this, and whatever happens, was just a number of people, like one after the other, saying, like, when we talk to you, and you always have some little tidbit or a little bit of something that I never didn't think about, and it really helped me in navigating whatever situation I had. And so we figured if we do that, and even if we help one person a week, figure if we do this for 100,000 weeks, we'll help 100,000 people. So it's your job to tune in every week and get us to that big number. So anyway, appreciate you being here, and from wherever you may be. We are currently in New York City, which is our base, as well as Pennsylvania, which is where Steph is from. The born and raised Jewish New Yorker, and Steph is not.
Born and raised Italian, Pennsylvanian.
There you go. Is that what it's called, Pennsylvanian?
That's what I just named it. It's like an
It's
unknown.
weird how but it's weird how certain things kind of flow, and then certain things
No,
don't.
Pennsylvanian. I think it's Pennsylvanian.
Yeah, I know. It's like Transylvanian. It flows,
Yes.
right? But some don't. Like there's some that are they just sound really weird. We're gonna have to do a little research.
Yeah, we'll have to have a list. We'll have to get our producer on that.
Yeah, maybe he'll figure out how to do that. You say that jokingly. We do actually have a producer who's doing this. This is not all us. But anyway, he's shy, so we're not going to even tell you who he is until we reveal him at some later episode.
Yes, he will be revealed.
He will be revealed, or maybe not. Maybe we'll just kind of keep him in hiding. Maybe we'll hear his voice, and then maybe we'll just see. Yeah, maybe we'll just see one eye or something, just to kind of trick people up. Anyway, what we do in our effort to try and do something good and help a little bit, is we come up with these what we call topics of the week. And they're really things that somehow just come up, either in multiple conversations, or, I talk to a lot of people. Steph talks to a lot of people. Either when we're in New York, I go to a decent amount of meetings, but I also am on Zoom a lot, phone calls. And so Steph hears some things, and she'll be like, you mentioned that topic a bunch of times, and who was that person or whatever. And so we just kind of try to come up with ones that we think are relevant and that we can speak to. So we have a few for you this week. Hopefully they're helpful. And I'm just going to dive right in. So I think this one's more you than me. The first topic of the week is we thought we would talk about self-care rituals and daily practices, routines, what we do to just deal and navigate with all sorts of things, and specifically what those things are. I think a lot of people talk about them. I think more people talk about them than actually do them. And everybody has their own thing. So, Steph, you definitely have a few things.
I have morning, noon, and night self-care rituals.
Well, you're leaving out the middle of the morning and middle afternoon, the early evening, late evening when you're watching TV. But sure.
Well, there may be a reason for,
throw them out.
Yeah, I will.
Why don't you tell our lovely audience a little bit about it, but more why this, why that, why stuff like that. I think that's probably pretty.
I got you. Hello, everybody. I could talk this whole time about all of my
I know.
self-care rituals.
We're going to keep you to.
We're gonna try to keep it down to a
So just
healthy.
so you guys know, when we do come up with these topics of the week, we come up with a list of whatever, and we spit out between us, a few of us, and partners and people that we work with are like, "Okay, let's come up with a list," and we come up with a bigger list, and then we hone it down to 3 per week. and and when we do it, Steph will be like, "Well, I can definitely talk about that," and then she'll go, "I can't talk about that one." And it's just kind of I find it cute how we find this little balance, because this I can jump in here if I have to, but I think Steph's right. She could do a whole show. She could do a whole series on
I
this.
really
But
could. I really could. Okay, so let me get into it. Okay, self-care rituals. I have been doing self-care rituals for for a really long time. Probably it probably started when my kids were older. I don't think I had the awareness to start any self-care rituals when I was in my 20s or really even in my 30s. I think that they really started for me in my 40s. And I don't know really what the reason for that is, but I do have when I wake up, I have certain things that I do that are self care, like for not only my health and like, my physical body, but also, for my mind and my spiritual. I'm very spiritual, and so I do certain things that kind of lean into that spiritual side of me, and and then I do a lot of things that are for the health of my mind. So a different topic than spirituality, just like mental health. And then there's obviously like the nutrition rituals, which I have been into nutrition for like over 20 years, and skin, and then exercise. And honestly, I think what I'm getting to is that all of the things that I do for myself, I see, even though they're vastly different, I think everything is integrated. And I've believed that for a really long time. So, you can't just pay attention to your body, for example. I think you have to pay attention to the whole person. And so that's why
I
there
pay
are so
attention
many.
to your whole person. I do pay attention to your body.
Okay. Well, that's nice to know. Thank you. But what I'm saying is, I think that, people have self care rituals, and I think a lot of it depends on what you want to get out of your life. And I'm a very highly motivated, high performing. So in order to do these things, I have to be in optimal position, to be able to do them. So I have to have somewhat of a clear head. Um, I can't be depressed. I can't be really super tired. So like you have to pay attention to your sleep and your nutrition and you know therapy and all the things that kind of come up make up a person.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people pay attention just to the body and they don't pay attention to the mind, and
Yeah,
so they look good and they put lotions on and they go to the gym, whatever, but mentally they're a basket case.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but then there's others who only do the mental, and I'm so spiritual and I'm so zen and I'm so this, and
And then they're an
but
alcoholic.
well, their bodies are all so messed up that, so I think finding that balance between the two, and I think it's tricky. I've seen what you go through and the stuff that you do, and you do different exercises and you try this, and I think you give everything a reasonable amount of time. And sometimes you're like, "Okay, I tried this for this amount of time. I was expecting to see this result. That didn't work. Let me see what else I can do. I try something else." I think that's good on the one hand. And I think sometimes it can be not so good because sometimes it takes maybe a little bit longer, or maybe it's a combination of things that's not making things work. So there's no question you definitely put a lot of effort into it, and you do it from that purpose, or that goal of, like, long longevity. Health isn't a term, I don't think, but like, you're not looking to just like get through this and then, okay, at some point you break down or whatever. You're looking at like what do I do today that's going to bring me a benefit, not just today, but in like 10 years and in
Yeah.
20 years. Like, you want to be able to be active, you want to be able to do stuff, and, you're mentally and physically. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
I mean, I'm playing the long game. I've never been a person to go for a quick fix. I'm I'm running a marathon. And in order to run the marathon, I want to have every component of who I am in a decent place to be able to navigate and pivot and be ready for what life throws at me. And life throws a lot at you, So doing the things I've done have helped me face a lot of the things I've had to face.
Of all the dozens of things you do, is there anything in particular you want to share with you? I mean, I could, but I'd probably better for you
Well,
to
I mean, if I
share.
would boil it down, I think you have to pay attention to your nutrition. I think being a person who doesn't, consume a lot of alcohol. I'm not a person who consumes a lot of alcohol. I'm not sober, but I'm a moderation person. I mean, I guess that's probably, everything in moderation kind of person. And yeah, I would say that that's probably, definitely exercise at least a few times a week and get good sleep and have decent nutrition that's balanced. Why are you laughing?
I'm smiling. I'm smiling. Why is it? What's wrong with me smiling? Why do you always think when I'm smiling, it's bad? I'm
There's
laughing at
nothing.
you.
Okay, well, you seem like you were laughing. And yeah, so I'm in everything in moderation, but I'm paying attention.
Except for popcorn. Okay, if you want me to throw out there, everything in moderation except for popcorn and chestnuts.
Okay, well, I haven't had popcorn. I've only had popcorn like twice in the past 2 weeks, so I don't think that's really. But I hear you. I used to be every single night, and I've broken that curse.
But no, look,
And
I'm just teasing. Obviously, I'm teasing. I think even when you do stuff like you have a snack or something, you're not eating a box of chocolate. Okay, you're not eating like a pint of ice cream. Like, even when you look for healthy snacks, you look for healthy snacks. You're like, okay, I like to have something while I'm watching TV or before I
yeah,
wind down. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then I think that goes into the moderation part. Like, and it's not that you don't eat chocolate ever, but you're conscious of it because, like, well, I like the taste of this or cake or whatever. You like it, but you're like, I know this isn't good for me to do all the time. I do it in moderation, as you said, and I think that's great. I think the people that cut things out totally 100%, there's something missing, and there tends to be a craving more often than not. Sometimes it's a bad thing, and you have to cut it out. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I think a lot more people could be okay with in moderation, but it's not that's not that easy to do. So I think it's commendable that you do it.
well, I mean, I think you just have to be a disciplined person if you want to achieve these things. And I have discipline, you know?
I would say that's true. Um, okay.
What about you? I know I see you doing your rituals. I see you doing your stretching,
Yeah,
like
I
very
I
like zen stretching.
I could definitely do better. I definitely
Mhm.
could do better, and I know I should do better, and I will do better. I'm good at sticking to something. Like, if I say I'm going to do it, I do it. I don't fuck around with that. And I thought that stretching would be a good thing. It's not a bad thing, and so I do whatever I do. I mean, I'm not even saying I do it right, but I do live religiously every day. It's 5 to 10 minutes, but I do that. I pray every day. I don't. I don't know necessarily. I mean, some people say praying is meditating. It's a whole different topic. I don't necessarily do meditating per se, but I do take a little bit here and there. I try to do it. I don't do it as often during the day as I would like. I do at night, like, I'll have a tea and I'll just kind of do whatever I can to wind down, and then just kind of think through a little bit and try to not think about work stuff per se or things. Oh, I got to do this, which I do anyway. But when I get to this last stage, I work on being thankful and grateful for what I have and the people in my world. I pray for all of them, which is independent from like my prayers. I every night without fail will pray for all the people that are most important to me in my world. And yeah, it's just giving thanks. It's nothing more. I don't ask for anything. I don't want anything. It's just being thankful for what I have. So that's me. I mean, I don't. Everybody has their own thing that makes them feel a little bit better, and that's what works for me. Again, I think I could. There's a lot that I've looked into. I've saved. Like, okay, I want to do this. I want to start working on that. I want to do this kind of workout or whatever. But it's. I think with all of us, there's a lot. People have a lot going on, and it's not always that easy to do it, but it's doable. I know I can do it, and at some point I will. I don't know that I'll tell you guys about it, but I'll do it.
Well, I think that, honestly, the importance of paying attention to how you self care is also so that you don't burn out. Because if you're someone who's trying to do certain things, in your career, or a lot going on within your family, or whatever is happening in your life, I think it's really important to have some kind of balance where you are taking care of yourself so that you can continue to be that person for the people that count on you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, but I think that goes back to the long game, right? Like, if you're doing that because there's people in your world that you care about, you want to be there for them, you want to be there for special moments in their life, and you want to be there in a healthy, positive way. You don't want to be unable to play with the kids or unable to go on that trip, or you want to be able to enjoy those moments, right? Not just for you, but for them.
Yeah, and honestly, the other part of that, as a mom of two daughters, I mean, if I had sons, it'd be the same thing. It's like also modeling behavior that is showing them that I care about myself and I care about the people around me, and I have a lot to do, so I need to pay attention to my own needs so that I can do it. So to me, it's leading by example, which is something that I am very conscious about all the time when it comes to my daughters, and also my nieces and my nephew.
Yeah, well, that's a whole. Let's. I'm going to skip over that for a little
I
bit.
know it's another topic, but that's the truth, and
Well, no,
that's
no, no. Not your daughters. I think for your daughters is fine. I mean, the rest of the family. It's not the same, right? Like, it's your daughters you're
that's
interacting with on a
me.
regular basis.
But I am close with my nieces, and I think it's nice in a big family. I come from a big Italian family. I think it's without a doubt there's a lot of interaction between all of us, and if I could be that aunt that is modeling a certain behavior that's positive for them, I'm happy to be that person.
No, I agree. I'm not being negative in saying that. I'm saying I think it's a separate subject. I think in a way, interestingly, on this topic, I think that's the long game. So I think for your daughters, you talk to them practically every day, every other day. Like, you're very in their life in a good way. They call you, they want to share things with you. You call them, you share things with them. It's very beautiful. You're in touch with them, you know, in a really beautiful way. So your impact on them, it may not always be exactly at the pace you want, but they can see it because they're around you on a regular basis. I think other family members, and you've seen it with your sisters even, that it's hard to believe that they would pick up on something, but we see, oh, well, we talked about this, and 2 years later, isn't it interesting that so and so is starting to say this thing or starting to do that thing? I think that's what I mean by your nieces, because you're not around them all the time. And I think you do see them certainly more than a lot of families get together over time. And also as they get older and as they get a little more mature, because they're a little bit younger than your daughters, they will then see those things where I think now, again, it's not a negative on them and it's not that you're not doing enough, but I think it's something of more of a balancing of age and where they are in their lives. And I think then probably the stuff you're doing now and have been doing will click for them at a later stage in their life. That's
Yeah,
what I'm.
yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Okay, so I know I could wind you up and you could keep going for another couple
I
of
know.
days, but
We'll cut it short.
we're gonna move on. Um, so the other topic that is I think very relevant and it affects us, you and I, differently in a way because I was so much younger than everybody in my family than you are with your relative, with your family. I dealt with a lot of things at a very early stage in this existence that I'm in at this moment, where certain things are happening to you a little bit later in life, which is more appropriate. I think your timing is more, I don't like to say the normal, but I think it's more, there's more people that are kind of at that thing. So there are the topic we wanted to kind of touch on a little bit is health and or illness of a loved one and how that affects us. And again, just to circle back, like the core purpose of this show, whatever it's called, is how we then deal with these things within our lives. So it isn't just like talking about these things like we're some experts on this, that, or whatever. It's more of like we're people who work and are together as a couple, and these things affect us. So they affect us in multiple levels, and kind of sharing, I guess, some of our experiences. So yeah, I mean that's the topic of the health health and or illness of a loved one and how that affects us. And I'm happy to have you start if you want to jump
Oh,
in.
okay. Well, obviously, the couple things come to my mind initially are when my father, who's now passed away, when his health changed, you know, 12 years ago. Or actually, no, he's passed almost 12 years. He was ill about 15 years ago, and it changed everything. Him having to go into the hospital for the first time when they were trying to figure out what was wrong with him, it changed our entire family dynamic. And my dad pretty much wasn't out of a hospital during that whole thing for 3 years. And they were different hospitals. He would be moved to a different hospital. And, I would have to say, in a way, it did bring us a lot closer together because we were all supporting my mom, first of all, and the fact that she was scared and sad, and my dad was very sick, and we were all kind of confused what all was happening with him. There were so many things going on with him that it was very confusing to understand what was the main thing and how does it relate to all the other things. So, having been through that, um, you know, it's life changing. And so my dad obviously passed away in 2014, and I started to have some fun today, which is an homage to him and his positivity. And now here we are in 2025, and my mother, in the meantime, has had some health issues. And again, a couple years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And again, our whole family was kind of like rallying around my mother and how we are going to face this together as a family. And while in some ways we weren't all on the same page with treatment, should it be alternative? Should it be what, the American Medical Association recommends? That was kind of a touchy subject for a little while. But, ultimately, my mother's the patient. She decided to stop doing chemo, for example, and focus on alternative treatments. And, 2 years later, she is, free of breast cancer, as far as we know. And so it's an interesting thing because, my mom's basically healthy. She lives independently. Um, she is around family quite a lot. So there's usually somebody around should she need anything. But it is like a very important part of our lives right now, making sure that my mom's okay. And we are all very vested in being there for her and taking our turns. There's 5 kids, so there is, enough children that the burden doesn't fall all on one person. But yeah, that's how I'd start off that conversation.
Well, yeah. So kind of a little bit to some of those points. You know, when we got the apartment here in the city, like practically as soon as we moved in, we got the word that your mom has breast cancer.
Yeah,
So as far as how the health of a loved one affects you, I mean, we were turned upside down right there, right on the spot. Like we literally were like, years in the thinking and making and planning, and during COVID, and when are we going to get to New York? And we looked for months and found a place. We were all excited, and then like, oh, okay, all right, let's retool here a little bit. Like, and we had a lot of conversations around it, a lot of thoughts about it. We obviously went back and forth much more. We spent more time in Pennsylvania for those first months than we had originally planned on. And I think through where we are now, a couple of years later, we're keeping a much closer eye on her than we would have probably before that. I mean, it's a little bit different for me, and she's not my mom and all that, as much as I love her to pieces, and as much as a kook as she can be sometimes, she's not my mom and she's not my aunt, but I feel very close to her and would do anything for her and her health. It's obviously different, but it really had an impact. It affected just everything. It affected a lot of things. What are we doing? How are we doing? It's hard to concentrate on the work that we want to do, on the other things we want to do. We have to think about these things. Even if you're like, okay, well, we could still work when we're in Pennsylvania, we can work we're here. Of course we can. It's a different world than 100 years ago where, you were just out of commission. But, it's still effect. It's still there. You're still thinking, how's she doing? Did she eat? She's taking her pills, blah, blah, blah. So, and now anytime something happens with her, there's more of a concern. It's just naturally more of a concern. It's more, she caught COVID. I mean, a few of us caught COVID, like it's a whole separate topic. She gets a cold, like I'm concerned. I'm differently concerned now than I was before she had COVID
yeah,
about, her lungs, what's going on, is she okay? And this. So I think that, I think it definitely just has an effect for sure. Yeah, I think, we all go through it in our own way, and people deal with things differently. And you can really see, some people, panic, get freaked out, and other people are calm and kind of navigate and look at all the different options, stuff like that. And yeah, it's just interesting. So yeah, I mean, I've seen how you deal with it. I've seen how your family deals with it. Very, very different than what I'm used to. How I react, how I deal with these sort of things. You know, it's it's a little bit it's different really because I don't. It's not my none of it is my call. I don't mean
yeah.
that in a bad way, but it's just
Well,
it's
I
not.
hear
It's not
you. Yeah.
none of it is my call. So I can look at it
Mhm.
and be like, oh, I really wish they would do this, or I really wish they would do that, or not do this, or not do that. It's not my call, and for me, I'm limited on family, so and no immediate family. My daughter is a different scenario, and she's her own person at this point, so it's just different. So yeah, it's interesting. I think there's no real preparation for it. I think the only preparation is what someone does so that someone else can learn from what someone else did.
Yeah. I mean,
You're just
honestly,
kind of
going through that with my dad and also what my mom has gone through. I mean, you definitely take bits and pieces of that. And I think some of the things that I do for my own self care rituals, I think that has been affected by watching the things that my dad and my mom went through. So I employ different nutritional or health things because to me, that's your biggest investment. You know, having a healthy body and a healthy mind is going to help you have, a longer healthy life. And so I think that it's kind of a good thing that I've seen what happens when you do X and what happens when you do Y and which
yeah,
leads to the better outcome.
yeah, yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, and again, I because I have the experience, I was able to pick up on a lot of things. I could feel how your siblings reacted and how they handled things with your mom, and you could tell that they were carrying something with them.
Yeah, yeah,
You
they
could
were
feel
so
that
deeply affected.
there was something there. This wasn't just like any other regular situation they dealt with. There was something. There was a different kind of, I don't say nervousness, but there was a certain, a little, maybe that is maybe the best word. There was a certain bit of tension that clearly didn't come just from that moment. It was something
Yeah.
that they were still carrying around, and whatever that is, and yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, obviously, when your mom's great and she's for the most part in pretty good shape, but yeah, of course, at some point she's going to deteriorate. It's just what happens in life. So I think going through this and your kids and your nieces and nephew, they were around, more so really for your mom, like with your dad, they were young, even though they were around, they were young. They're adults or semi-adults, all of them right now. I mean, none of us are really adults at this stage, but they're more like they're working, they're out there, they have relationships, like it's different. So they were, I mean, they also were, very nervous, around it. They were nervous when she had COVID. They were nervous when she had breast cancer, and they were nervous, which is
Mhm.
which is reasonable. I mean, they love her, and it's a beautiful relationship. So in a way, it's good because they're going to have to go shit with their parents, and at some point. So the fact that they have that at an age where they're getting close to being really independent, really making their own
Mhm.
decisions, it's a good, it's in a way it's a good thing. It's the way nature is, I guess. So is that good for you there?
I think we're good with that one.
Okay. So our next and final topic for the week is apprenticeship, which I don't remember when I started talking about this, but I've been talking about this, I guess, for a while, and I
Mhm.
think you've picked up on it, and I guess you liked a little bit of what I said, but we both deal with multi generational people in our daily lives, in our personal lives, and in our business lives. We're around a lot of Gen Z and millennials, and senior citizens, and everything in between.
All the generations.
We hit all the gens, and now meeting a couple of Gen Alphas. I don't wind me up on that. And I guess it all started with me, hearing a lot of talk and being online and hearing what people say, and listen to all these experts, whatever the fuck that means, talk about how Gen Z doesn't like to work and this one that millennials were this and this was that, whatever. When it gets down to it, what is happening, I think, societally is that a lot. And I, again, a high school dropout, didn't care for school from day one. Not a huge fan of not. I'm not a huge fan of the education system. I'm a huge fan of education. And I do believe people need to learn and people should study and all that stuff, 100%. The actual structure and the actual system and the way it's set up is just horrifying to me on every level. And I really, really hope and I do believe that it will change in time, hopefully sooner rather than later. And it doesn't mean by gutting it, it means by newer people, smarter people, more creative people coming up with better systems and better tools and better mechanisms so people can really learn. The current system that we have, which we've had for many, 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 many years, is a system that just throws a lot of knowledge at people that aren't necessarily into accepting or gaining that knowledge, and then throwing them out into the workforce without really any understanding of what the world is really like.
Mhm.
Many, many, I mean, yes, writing a check is something that you really don't have to do that much, but you do a little bit still today. It's a matter of a very short amount of time that there will no be paper checks and people won't be doing that. But it's an example that's been used many, many times in the past is that, people graduate college and they don't even know how to write a check. And
This is true.
you can go, which is true. I mean, listen, in all due
Yeah.
respect, your eldest daughter, Allegra, who's very smart, who's been working for a long time, who works very hard, who has learned many different skills in different jobs. She's a rock star person. She's a rock star as an employee. And we had to teach her how to write a check because she had to write a check for like a wedding or some shit she had to write a check for. And she just didn't know how to write a check.
Well, if
And
you don't write checks, you don't know how to write them.
I'm not attacking. Don't get
No, no, no.
don't get Mama Bear on me.
No,
Don't get
I'm
Mama Bear
not.
on me. It's all okay. It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
not getting Mama Bear. I'm
I'm
just
just saying
stating the obvious.
to the point that she wasn't taught certain things. So when you take that into the workplace, and now there's an employer, whether it's a large, multi conglomerate company or something, or just a small office or a restaurant or whatever, people are paying you to do a job. Like they expect you or require you to have certain skills. And it's not just I know how to turn on my computer. It's the actual skills of doing certain things in the job. And for the longest time, and still today, we have interns, which some are legal and some are not, and there's all sorts of systems. But for the most part, not us, definitely not us, but a lot of interns are just go get the coffee, go run errands, go do this shit, go put the boxes away, whatever. We operate very, very differently whenever we do have interns, and we have one right now who is amazing and just stellar. Shout out to Kavya. But we're engaging with her, and for us we want to make sure she learns something and that she gets something out of the experience, and that it's a two-way street. She's benefiting us with her skills that we may not have or may not have the ability to do as well as she had, and she learns from what we teach her and how business works, how life works, whatever. And prior to this time, there was a thing many, many, many years ago, not in our lives really, called apprenticeship. And granted, there were a lot of bad things that happened, and there were a lot of child labor stuff that happened, which is why we have unions. One of the reasons we have unions and child labor laws and all that stuff, which are all very good, very important. But apprenticeship was really teaching somebody a skill that they could then apply in their future life. So whether it was from the most mundane to being someone who works in a shoe store, a shoemaker back in the day, which we don't really have many of those, or a baker, or whatever else, to being a coder, or to being a fashion designer that works under a designer that works with a seamstress, or what's a seam? Is a seamstress is a seamster? Is a male
No,
seamstress?
no, no. Hmm.
Whatever it is. I'm not trying to
Seamstress.
be sexist. So,
Yeah, I've
but
never heard the term seamster.
yeah, I've never heard seamster. But anyway, the person who's making the garments or stuff, when there were kids or young adults or whatever they were working in these companies, they weren't getting paid, granted, but they were literally learning the skills. I mean, they were being held by hand to do certain things. They were being watched and taught. They weren't just being given the shit work. They were given practical skills, practical training. And I think that it would behoove us as a society to figure out a way to implement some sort of thing like that, where it's fair all around. It should be part, if you're going to go to college or whatever, it should be part of that program that you do these things, so that when people go out and get jobs, when they go out into the real world and try to make a living and do whatever they
They
want to do with
actually
their
know how to
lives,
do something.
they know how to do something, like, and that they're really adding value to society. And I think that would change the entire employer-employee relationship. I mean, it
Yeah.
totally changes it when you're paying someone and you're not like, they're not doing anything, but I need them, or I got to train them, or I got to keep them, whatever. And I'm not saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying you don't have to train new employees. Of course you do. Because every person, every business has their way of doing it. Otherwise, there would be one company and that would be it. So, every baker, every bakery does things a little differently. Every restaurant does a little different. Every fashion designer does it a little differently. Every dev house does it a little differently. Every production company does it a little differently. Of course. And, we put the files on the left side of the office. Oh, like we do this on Tuesdays. Not great. But they know what that thing is. They know if they have to put a piece of equipment away, what that piece of equipment is. what it costs, why you have to be careful with it, why this one you have to purposely be hard with. Like they learn those things from experience and from practice. To me, it's just like sports. Like as an athlete, like you train over and over and over again for that one time in that one game or that one match that you're going to get that opportunity. Whether you're a basketball player, football player, tennis player, there's that one thing that you train over and over and over again, and it comes up once in a blue moon. But when it happens and you hit that shot or score that basket, you're like, oh yeah, good thing I did that extra week, that extra night, that extra hour that I stayed there training. And I just think it's an important thing. I mean, I can get off my soapbox now, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, I'll
yeah,
just
get off my
jump in
soapbox.
here a little bit because I agree with you, Jay. I think it's very important. And, just like kind of looking at the young people that I've come across in all the things that I've been doing in life, and also watching my daughters, as they've been excited about getting into certain jobs and then going in and realizing the job is very different and that they're not going to be doing all the things that the person told them in the interview, and instead they're going to be cold calling, which I get it. Look, everybody has to pay some kind of dues, but I'm really, I am not a fan of young people getting hired and then going into a situation that was not disclosed in the interview and basically cold calling, and the kids or the young people are not really learning how to apply, you know, the things that they learned in school into this new job, for one. A lot of times they're not even trained, like they are just doing these cold calls, and there's no training other than that. And I think that a lot of companies are actually missing out on, you know, learning from the kids also.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had this conversation with many people, and certainly I have friends that are real Gen Zers and a few friends that are working on bridging this gap and getting people to understand better. And, you know, I firmly believe, and I don't want to stereotype, and obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but the majority of Gen Zers that I've met, worked with, mentored, whatever, they're willing to work as hard as anybody else. They're not shy to work. They're not there to complain. They just want to understand the purpose behind it. They want to understand what it is they're doing, what the goal is that they're trying to achieve. They're not of the mentality that people were historically trained in. Do it because I did it. Like they're like, yeah, that's just not going to work. Like they do want to enjoy their lives, which I think is a reasonable thing. And yes, there's of course the extremes and the ones that don't want to do this, blah blah blah. I get it, but it's not like there's just total laziness. I think it's more of like it's a difference from what society is used to. So the elder people at companies in their 40s, 50s, 60s are like, well, go do this, and they're like, okay, I'll do this, but can you explain to me why? And they're like, why are you talking back to me? And but in talking with people, it's before that. Like it shouldn't even get to that point, go do this. It should be a understanding of like, hey, this is the job, this is what we're doing, we do this a certain way, let me explain to you why. Because in the long run, that's better for the company. If your employees are better and they're happier and they're working harder, and it doesn't necessarily mean extra hours, but that they're really doing a better job, company is going to be probably more successful. There's going to be less loss. They're going to be willing to jump in when times get tough, which happens to every company. So, I think there's just we have to kind of break down a lot of those barriers. But again, I think, not to harp on it, but if people had that sort of training, that real on the job apprenticeship type of training, I think it would just make it so much easier for people. And I think for companies to invest in that, certainly the bigger companies that can afford it, I think it would be tremendous for everybody, for society, for the workforce, for the children. I just think it would be a good thing. So,
Totally agree. I think there is a real disconnect, and I think there would be a great up leveling of what young people can contribute to companies, and they're they're just kids would just be more engaged with the roles that they currently have in
Yeah.
those companies.
Yeah. I agree. Cool. Okay. Well, I think that's a wrap on the topics. That's a topic wrap. And I think it's now time for our closing segment, which we call rapid fire questions. We got to work on those sound effects. I think we gotta up our budget on this show and get the real good sound effects going. Like, I don't know.
All right.
I'm gonna work.
So you ready? I'm going to fire them at you.
You're going first. I'm going first. You're asking questions first. Okay.
Yeah, thought I would do that. Okay. First one,
Yes,
Jay.
dear. Yes, dear.
First one. Stay in or go out?
I mean, it really depends on the situation, but I would say go out.
Okay. Most used app on your phone?
Uh, Probably WhatsApp.
Best place you've ever been?
With you.
I don't think that's a place.
It is to me.
Okay. All right. I'll take it.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Stay in or go out?
Stay in.
Okay, I'm putting a timeout here, kids. So she says that, and I say that, but I can tell you that more often than not, we flip that. So I historically went out a lot, and with a few different things that are going on in the universe right now, I don't run for us to go out. Like I don't be like, hey, we got to go here. I don't do that as much as I used to. But in a ask me a question what my preference is. My preference is yes, I would prefer that we go out more. And Steph, we do stay in, and Steph does say stay in, and I get that. But she is very eager, and one of the reasons she was so eager for us to finally get back to the city was to go out. So I just wanted to put a time out there to put a little thing, not to break up the rapid fireness of the rapid fire questions, but
Okay.
as we're
Well,
trying to educate people.
I need to say something to that. And that is that if I were going out all the time, that wouldn't be part of who I am.
For sure.
So I like to more than not stay in and then go out when there's something cool to do. So
Moving on. Most used app on your phone.
Instagram.
Best place you've ever been.
Italy.
Specific or just
Yeah,
general?
I mean, I'm going to say Rome, because it's this gorgeous old, obviously incredibly old city with so much history, and it's so expansive, and there's so many different areas, and I just feel like really alive whenever I'm in Rome.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, just hope everybody has a super great weekend.
You're telling people that this is a Friday, but it's not. It could be any day of the week that we're shooting this. Nobody knows. It's a mystery. You don't know where we are, when we're coming back. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I hope you had fun. We certainly did. And that's really what matters the most. And we look forward to seeing you again soon on the next episode of Pickles and Pasta with.
Steph and Jay.
Okay, and that's a wrap. Bye, kids.
Bye.